When I moved out at 15, I just knew, like, statistically, I'm going to end up in an abusive relationship, on drugs, drinking, some version of all of that. And I didn't want to be. Like, to me, like, the only counterculture thing to do, the only truly rebellious thing I could do was, like, how do I get happy? And if happiness isn't taught in my home, is it a learnable skill? Is it a teachable skill? And that was the impetus for everything, still to this day.
Where do you... So then what happens? How do you get discovered?
There was a radio DJ, programmer, excuse me. He ran 91X, which is a really big radio station in the country. They might have been number 2 in the country at the time. Heavy alternative station. Somebody told him about this girl singing in a coffee shop and that he should come. And he came in. I could recognize new faces when they come in because this wasn't a big place, by the way. I mean, this might have been 70 people that could fit inside. That's a tiny coffee shop.
So you had developed a crowd, like you were accustomed to seeing familiar faces.
Yeah, I was a loyal, diehard fan base. Like, tiny, don't get me wrong, but I knew them. You know what I mean? It was like a little family in a way. And so this guy came in. He had a goatee, flannel shirt on. He looked kind of hard, and he was sitting in the back. And I remember singing the song 1,000 Miles Away, and he was just weeping, like, quietly, but just tears were streaming down his face. And he came up to me afterwards. He's like, hey, I'm at the radio station, and, like, why don't you come in, like, sing a song one night or something? And I was like, okay. So I get down to the radio station, and I sing a song for him, and we talk a little bit. And I guess he went ahead, him and this guy named Lou Niles, put it on the radio, and it got requested by fans. That's back when you could still request songs and they'd listen to it. And it got somehow into the top 20, of this station, which is a big deal. Like, top 20 on that station was like, labels pay a lot of money to promote their artists to try and get them into the top 20. And this was like an acoustic guitar demo in the middle of, like, all this grunge music. And so record labels were like, what is this song that's showing up on this playlist? And they would call him, and he's like, it's this chick down at this coffee shop. And so all of a sudden there would be like these limousines pulling up, and they would give sweet little Nancy, that was just, she was having a banging business now, which felt so good. And they would be like, she'd be like, Jewel, Sony Records is here tonight. And I'd be like, all right. I was so passé about the whole thing. It was very funny. And then they'd take me out to tacos and talk to me about record deals. And then there was a bidding war. It was every label came down, every label. They'd flown from New York. They'd bring in bigger executives. Then they'd fly in. They'd come again. They'd, all these limousines showing up. And I would start to get flown around to talk to different record labels. And
How long does this process take?
I don't know. I'm kind of bad with time that way. I don't know, a couple months, something like that.
And you don't have a manager. You don't have anybody speaking for you.
Mm-mm. No, but I went to the library and I found this book called
How to Manage Yourself for Dummies.
It was Don Passenheim, I think, called Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business.
Oh, boy.
And that sounded good. So I read it, and I just learned about mechanicals and royalties and back ends and advances.
Oh, so you did your homework.
I did my homework, and there ended up being a huge bidding war over me. All the labels just started, like, competing. I realized, because of reading that book, that an advance is a loan. You don't get to keep the money. You pay it back through record sales. And so I did the math to see how many records I'd have to sell to pay back $1 million, and it was a lot of records. And so it was like having a bounty on my head as an artist. I almost didn't sign my record deal because I had just figured out how to be happy, like, genuinely. I was really starting to figure it out, and I knew it, like, inside myself. I was doing so much better. And God forbid you take somebody with my emotional background and they ever get famous. I'm the recipe for every movie you've seen about every musician. Like,
right.
And again, I didn't want to be a statistic, and I fought so hard for my happiness up to this point that I was like, I don't think I could trust myself to have a record deal and figure out how to do that career without self-imploding. So I almost didn't sign it. I remember being on the beach one day, and I was like, I wanted to do it, but I was terrified of doing it. So I made myself a promise that my number one job would still be to figure out how to be happy, and my number two job would be to be a musician. And then under the musician category, that I wanted to be an artist more than I wanted to be famous. And so knowing those was like having my North Star, and I felt like I could navigate and make decisions based on those things. And so I went ahead and signed the record deal. I turned down the advance. I turned down $1 million bonus.
Holy shit.
As a homeless kid.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That is so crazy.
And I took the
How
biggest.
Did you do that? I would have taken that money for sure, 100%. I'd have been like, I'll figure it out in the future. Taking this money. I'm getting a fucking fat apartment overlooking the water.
This is not what I did.
As a homeless kid, you passed on $1 million.
I did.
Wow.
But I took the biggest back end anybody had ever been awarded. And so if I sold records, I was going to make a shit ton. So she went back to Alaska. I went through this crazy experience being homeless. I got signed. I called her one day from a payphone. I was like, Mom, you're not going to believe it. Like, record labels are coming to see me. And she was like, I will be down to help you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's the moment you wish you could take back in your life, for sure. But I was really flattered. You know, I felt
You probably
loved.
also missed her.
Oh my God, I was so lovesick for her, you know, so lovesick. And she was just my hero. Like, she was just so cool and creative and spiritual and philosophical and like smart, and like she was neat, like super alternative. And when I was 16, backing up just a little bit, like, so I was away at boarding school, she'd written me a letter and she said we were like having the same soul in two different bodies, which felt like a huge compliment to me because it meant, I don't know, I felt owned, you know, like she wanted me. It felt like being claimed, I guess.
Right.
So she started advising me. I had my own manager, but then she started co-managing me. And then she ended up pushing the other manager out. It was like seeing a mask ripped off, and she's like, I'll give you the fucking house. And I was like, I could end up dead.
Like she could kill you.
It worried me.
Holy shit. So now
And
you're
I was
thinking your
like-
mom might kill you.